So you want to be a drone pilot? Well, let's figure out what that is all about. Hi, my name is Scott Lucier. I am a drone pilot myself. I've been flying drones for 5 or so years, teaching drones at a university in Boston for the same amount of time, and put a lot of thought into what it takes to become a drone pilot and preparing my students to take that leap. So I've trained hundreds of students to get their licenses and to get them down the road as to how to be a drone pilot. So let's talk this through. I put together this PowerPoint to kind of lay it all out, get everything in my head out on a piece of paper. And this will help walk you through the typical path that students take to become professional drone pilots. The most obvious place to start is to get your Part 107 license. So this is a test you take from the FAA in the United States. 60 question test costs $175 to take it. You need to get a 70 or better. So you gotta study a little bit. You gotta prepare for this thing. The material is not incredibly difficult. I think anyone could pass it, but you do need to learn some things that are may not be familiar to you if you're not a pilot, if you're not into that aviation world. So just kind of learning some of the terminology and memorizing a lot of things. 400 feet, 3 statute miles, blah blah blah, all that good stuff that you need to know in order to fly within regulations. You also need to learn how to read airspace maps, which is a little bit of a process, but you can find lots of places to walk you through that and learn how to do that. So if you give it a solid effort, I think anyone can pass. You're well on your way to becoming a professional drone pilot. So that's the obvious step. Now passing this test has nothing to do with actually knowing how to fly, how to manipulate the controls and fly the thing, fly the drone, right? So that's the next part of this, like learn to fly. So once you know the rules and you do it legally, and you got to just get time behind the controls of a drone, right? So learning how to use the sticks, learning mission planning, how to figure out all the different things. A lot of this is in part on the Part 107 exam. Standard operating procedures, how do professional drone pilots go about their business? How do you access airspace? How do you use the Lance authorization system, the FAA's system to allow you to access certain airspace? You learn all this in the Part 107 test. But actually doing it is another thing, right? And then just practicing, intentionally practicing your skills, learning how to fly the drone around, turn it, make nice smooth turns, point the camera where you want it to, deal with emergency situations, all that stuff. Like you need to become a good pilot, right? So even if you know all the rules, that's kind of the beginning of this, right? So a lot of people think, oh, now I've got my license, I'm a professional drone pilot, I can charge money. I was a hobbyist before. Yeah, well, maybe. I suppose technically, but there's really a lot more to it. You got a lot more to learn. Parallel to that, if you're going to do this professionally, is you need to learn how to run a business, which is a whole nother skill set that has absolutely nothing to do with a drone. But things like building a website, creating a demo reel, and kind of showing off your skills and putting it up on that website, finding people that will give you money to fly your drone, convincing them to hire you and not somebody else. How do you deal with them, as you go forward? Client management, right? Keeping them happy. And then rinse and repeat. Keep going. Keep getting new clients and always bringing in new clients and also maintaining your existing clients can be quite a trick. And then you got to get yourself a drone, which is a whole nother issue. Right? There's so many of them out there. Most notably is DJI, a Chinese drone manufacturer. They make a great product for a great price. A lot of technology jammed into these things. But there's so many options, and you can read so many things on online or on YouTube, and this is the best drone, that's the best drone. Really kind of personal to you. But you got to think about the camera. You got to think about the flight time. Um, and you can spend anywhere from $500 to $2,000 to get yourself a drone that you can use to be a pro drone pilot. And then you need accessories. It's nice to have a case. It's nice to have extra batteries so you can fly more than half an hour. Um, you know, landing pads, flight vests, good set of glasses, right? Like things like that. And then, you know, you're going to want N plus one. What is N plus one? N is the number of drones that you currently own. N plus one represents what we want. We always want one more drone. There's always one drone better. So, you got to figure out, okay, I've got this drone. This other drone will complement that. Professional drone pilots have more than one drone, a backup drone in case something goes wrong with one of your drones, you got something else to use. So um that's all part of this as well, figuring out that whole world, which can be fun. But typically once you've got your drone and you've got your license and you've learned how to fly it, the kind of the obvious path is to get into drone photography. I think it's kind of from a skill perspective, kind of the easiest low-hanging fruit to get into. So work for a real estate agent every time they put a house in the market. A lot of them, I think this is almost standard now to have a drone shot. They'll hire you to go take, 5 pictures. You can work for a realtor directly, or you could um, set up something like Drone Base or Sold by Air. There's these marketplaces where they gather the jobs and then they put them out, and uh, they send you an email if it's near you. You accept it. You go do the job. Send them the pictures. Pretty easy. I've done this. It's a good way to get paid to practice, right? So the pay is $50, maybe $100 if you're lucky. But if it's nearby and it's a question of taking 5 pictures and emailing them back to somebody, might be worth it, right? It's a good way to learn how to go to a site, how to set up, how to do your pre-flight evaluation and all that good stuff. So, you know, um, great way to start. You want to get into the editing of the pictures yourself. Some of these drone companies, drone base and stuff, they don't want you to edit anything. They just want the raw photos. They do all that. But if you want to work for a realtor, you probably want to do some editing to these things. Touch them up, learn Photoshop, which is a whole, you know, project in itself, or something like Photopea, which is a free online Photoshop, I don't know, clone, I don't know, alternative, I guess. And there are others, but learning how to edit photos is a whole nother skill set that you got to kind of learn if you want to money with that. Beyond that, you can get into more complicated jobs, right? Like drone videography or drone modeling or drone mapping. Start with drone videography, similar to drone photography, where you have to look at the environment and the light and the conditions, and put the drone in the right spot. So but now you're moving. Now there's more to it. You got to kind of think about where the drone's going and also pointing the camera in the right direction. A whole nother level of flight that you really got to practice to get there. But if you can master that, you can charge a lot more money. So um and then if you want to edit the videos, you got things like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve or Wondershare Filmora. Many different options for that. But learning how to splice film together and add in images and add in logos and maybe music, and that's a whole nother skill set, right? Like these, like, that's complicated stuff to learn how to use Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro. So that's part of the game, right? So you got to kind of learn all that stuff. You might even want to get into Cinewhoop drones, which are drones with a cowl around the propellers, and those are good for flying indoors. They can kind of bang into things and crash. People use them for fly throughs, indoor spaces, so they are not connected to GPS, so they're kind of built more for flying. You can fly through windows and do some cool stuff. So again, a whole nother level. Maybe you combine that with indoor photography, and you can, if you're into the film stuff, you know, provide a whole suite, whole package for um, filters or whatever it might be, high end homes and things like that. So so that's the videography. Kind of ties in with the photography pretty closely. Then we have drone modeling, where we're learning automated flight. So we have something like Litchi, which you set your drone positions on your computer up front, and you go from this, one position in the air, and then it'll go to another position and take a picture, or it helps kind of set the flight of the drone beforehand, which is really nice. So you can kind of set up your shots and do repeatable shots, right? So I can do a flyby of a house or a field or something, and do the exact same flight a week later, or do that every week, right? It's for a construction, shot of um, a new home going up, right? So every week, so you have like an orbit around a house, and you splice them together, and you can do some cool stuff with that, and you can actually, I should have mentioned in drone photography, you can get into 3D pictures and or panoramic shots. You can get pretty detailed, and the cameras on these things are incredible, right? So you can get 20 megapixel images and HDR and all that good stuff, where you can blend them all together and really make some amazing images. But so back to the drone modeling, you can use Pix4D Mapper or Blender or Drone Deploy, Reality Capture, Mesh Lab, Open Drone Map, programs that will take the pictures that you took of a house or something, at an oblique angle so it can see heights, and um, using photogrammetry, blending them all together, turning it into a 3D model object that you could use in, VR or video games, or, realtors might use them, or for construction purposes, whatever it might be. So that's a whole nother thing. Building a 3D model, if you want to get into, Revit or SketchUp, things like that. Um, there's a lot to that, and get your models on the Sketchfab online, and I think this is a growing industry as we kind of computers get into the 3D world, right? So think Google Earth and programs like that. And then drone mapping, which is kind of where I live. That's my background, is mapping. So I got into drones in order to gather data that I can use in my GIS maps, my geographic information systems maps. So this is similar to 3D modeling, where I'm going to set up the drone beforehand to do a flight. Usually it's a grid pattern, a zigzag. So, and it'll fly itself. So I set the parameters. I say go up whatever 100 feet, do a zigzag pattern on this box that I drew on a map on my computer, and it will calculate that. And but you got to learn the settings, and you got to learn what's going on, and you got to think about batteries, and if you have to land because it's more than a half an hour, and then put it back up, and gathering all those pictures that you will then stitch together and make a giant high resolution image, which is great for mapping. Just that's really what I like to do. So, um, this is usually a larger job. It takes more time. Usually, you want people involved. If you have whatever, 100-acre site, some visual observers, some people to help you. And so, managing that crew and managing the day is another skill that people don't really talk about when you talk about getting into drones. Like, crew management it's real, right? um Programs you have to learn, you can use Drone Deploy to do that photogrammetry processing, to stitch all those pictures together. Do this on the cloud. You can do it on your computer, depending on how you want to do it, or Pix4D, or which are great programs but expensive programs, right? So there's an investment there. Or Open Drone Map, which is free and open source, but you gotta get it installed. You gotta figure out how to use it. That's what I like to use. Um, so there's that option there. And then once you have that great image, and you've done your work, you've flown it, you put it in, you crunched it, mashed it all together. You want to kind of do something with that, right? So that's when you get into the GIS skills, which is a whole nother skill set that complements the drone flights as well. But if you are a GIS expert, you can and you have the ability to use your drone to gather stuff, then you can take that image and overlay fire hydrants and property boundaries, and roads and telephone poles, and underground pipes, all sorts of GIS information out there. With GIS skills, whether it's ArcGIS Pro, which is, I don't know, $2,700 a year, I think, something like that, or QGIS, which is free and open source, which is what I use. You can really do some great analysis, some great cartography. You can really make an amazing final product from that. So that's kind of, the typical way to start. You can go even further with this, whether it's, drone delivery is coming, and whether you want to get into the software development end of that, which is, like I talk about a whole nother bag of bag of worms, bag of, I don't know, can of worms. I don't know. Um, or agriculture, right? So a farmer with a $1,000 drone can do amazing things, inspecting his crops, figuring out NDI calculations, which is like crop health. You could use drones to monitor things, just to get a look at your farm, set that thing up in an automated flight to fly it every day, and you have a picture of your crops over time. You can figure out the temperature and the rainfall amounts, and you can do some amazing analysis, or even just as a management tool. Used a lot in construction management. You're putting up a skyscraper and you want to fly that, you get the construction progress. So a lot of engineering firms are using drones. It's kind of getting standard, right? So get into that, and you could be the drone guy at an engineering firm. It's not uncommon anymore. Search and rescue. If you work for fire departments or police departments, someone's lost in the woods, get a drone up to help find them. Fire operations. Firemen like to have drones up in the air so they can see what's going on, get a situational view of the fire and who's where and what's going on. And inspections is another one. So cell tower inspections, big transmission line inspections. It's much easier to get a drone up, you know, get a great picture of what's going on, 80 feet up in the air, whatever it might be. Um, than sending a guy up there trying to use a telephoto lens from the ground. You just get a drone up, takes an amazing picture, and it's a lot safer, a lot quicker, and the final product's a lot better. So many ways to take this. You gotta kind of be strategic about it. Think about what you're into, which skills that you think that interest you. You have a lot of work ahead of you in order to do this. Like the drone manufacturers and these people that make these great programs, like they'll say, "Oh, it's so easy. Oh, you'll be up in no time. Oh, you can make big money." Well, you can, but it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time to learn all that stuff. So, um, that's what this video is about, letting you know what you're in for. And then, of course, drones are technology, right? There are always new drones with better capabilities coming out, new regulations, some loosening things up, some tightening other things down. There's a lot to this. It's a constantly changing field, which is, I think, is great. It rewards the people that they're gonna keep up with it, and be constantly learning, so understand that as well. Like, it's not like okay, I've made it. I've got my license. Now the money comes in. Well, no, you got a few more steps there, and a lot of hours in front of a computer or out in the field, but it's a lot of fun too, right? It's just cool. It's just awesome technology, and I love it, and I highly encourage you to get involved with it. It could be a great full on career. It could be a great side hustle. You just do stuff you do on the weekends or in the summer or whatever it might be, just to make some money and pay for your drone. And that's a cool thing, right? Yeah, okay, cost $1,000 to get in the game, but you could make that back, by taking real estate photos and within a year, like easily, if you put your mind to it. So that's it. So good luck. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. So I offer some courses on some of the topics we talked about. So if you want to take a look at those, I appreciate your consideration. We've got safe drone flight, open drone map. If you want to get into the mapping part, learning GIS specifically for drone pilots and all the tools in GIS that drone pilots use. Um, Intro to digital mapping if you just want to learn how to use GIS, open source free GIS, QGIS cartography, FAA test prep course on how to create a map atlas. And I've got some planned that they'll be up in the future, just not out yet. Working on those, but my courses are set for $20, 19.99. Often you can find a sale for 11.99. I sell them through Udemy. The links are in the description below. I think that they're great value for money if you save yourself 10 hours by having someone who's done this before and can explain things and gives you sample data and resources that you can use. It's well worth it. There's a lot of some decent stuff out there on YouTube, and there's a lot of junk out there on YouTube. It's wasting your time sifting through all that. I don't know. It's time well spent. So that's why I offer these. So I think you'll enjoy them, and forward to seeing you in class maybe. All right. So all right. Thank you.